Hello, so let us look at some review questions here together. First, we are looking at the discriminant. So when you look at the question, it has many writings like these. And these topics usually deals with discriminant, which is equal to b squared minus 4ac. Now, in this case, if you have to put that into our discriminant formula, and you will realize that, okay, 3 squared is equal to 9, and then negative 4 times 9 times negative 4 becomes positive 144. And then when you add them up, it becomes 153. When it's 153, since it's positive, it's not imaginary. It's not equal to 0, so it's not equal either. But since it's not a perfect square, our answers are irrational. So therefore, choice 4 becomes our answer. Similarly, number 2, we want to do the b squared, that means negative 1 squared, minus 4 times a, which is equal to 2. But how about c? What's c? When you try to look for c, notice that in this case the equation is not set to equal to 0. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to subtract 4 from both sides and set the equation equal to 0. In this way, you can see that the value of c is equal to negative 4. Now, when you add them up, we get 1 plus 32. Then we get 33. So once again, since it's not a perfect square, our answer will be real but irrational. Choice 1 becomes the answer. Alright, how about number 3? Same deal. Since we're looking at imaginary roots, that means b squared minus 4ac, the discriminant has to be less than 0. So we're just going to check up on each and every one of them and then see which one of them will get us that. So negative 2 squared minus 4a is equal to 1, c is equal to 1 in this case. Then we realize that it is equal to 4 minus 4, which is equal to 0. Then we know that roots are equal, but not necessarily imaginary. And negative 2 squared minus 4a is equal to 1, and c is equal to negative 1 in this case. Then we get 4 plus 4, which is equal to 8. Since it's not a perfect square, we know that our answer will be irrational. Thirdly, negative 2 squared minus 4, a is equal to 1, c is equal to 5. Then you get to realize that we have 4 minus 20. Then we have negative 4, or negative 16. And in that case, we will have imaginary root. Alright, choice 3 becomes the answer. Let's look at number 4 for a second. So here, discriminant, but we're looking for the discriminant when the roots are real, that means it has to be positive. Irrational, that means it's not a perfect square. So I'm looking for something that's positive and not a perfect square. Only possible choice is answer 7, discriminant being 7. Now, once again, number 5, we're looking for imaginary roots. Then, the discriminant b squared minus 4ac has to be less than 0. So when we calculate this one, we get to see that. So 36a must be equal to less than negative 36. And as we divide by 36 on both sides, you will see that a has to be less than 1, which is choice 4. Alright, let's move on. Number 7. Once again, I'm looking for m, but roots has to be equal. What does that mean? If roots are equal, that means the discriminant has to be, a value of the discriminant has to be equal to 0 as well. So b squared minus 4ac has to be equal to 0. And b is equal to m, so we get m squared minus 4. A is equal to 4, and then c is equal to 9. Then you can see that m squared minus 144 is equal to 0. Then you can see that m must be equal to 12, plus or minus 12. But they said it was a positive number, so we end up looking at 12 only, which is choice 1 becomes the answer. Now number 7, we are looking for imaginary roots. That means the discriminant has to be less than 0. So here we get negative 2 squared minus 4, a is equal to 3, and then c is equal to k. Has to be less than 0. That means we get 4 minus 12k is less than 0. And then by subtracting 4 from both sides, then you can see that negative 12k is less than negative 4. By dividing each side by negative 12, we get to realize that k can be compared to 1/3, but the sign has to change. So we get k has to be greater than 1/3. Number 8. If you want to look at the quadratic inequalities, what we have to do is we can factor first x plus 5 and x minus 1 is less than 0. Then we know that x being equal to negative 5 and 1 are the boundaries of the number line. So let us assume that negative 5 is here and then 1 is over here. And the value that which we want to check upon is x being equal to 0 because that's easiest. Then we get 0 squared minus 4 times 0 and minus 5 is less than 0. Then of course we realize that negative 5 is less than 0, so it works out. That means since the middle worked, the two outer intervals will not work here for this question. So therefore choice 4 becomes our answer. Same deal here, x squared minus 3 and then x plus 2 has to be less than 0. And what are we going to do? X can be equal to 3 or negative 2. Drawing a number line, same deal as before, negative 2 and then 3. Pick a number in the middle. So what if x was equal to 0? Then you get 0 squared minus. So that's basically what we end up getting by plugging in 0. And then we realize that it worked. So therefore that means our answer is between negative 2 to 3. That becomes the answer. And we just wrote down the answers in interval notation and set notations in this way. Alright, so that would have been our answer. Finding the quadratic inequality algebraically. So I'll be subtracting 5 from both sides. Has to be greater than 0. And as we factor these things out, x minus 5 and then x plus 1 has to be greater than 0. Now, that means x can be 5 or negative 1. And then on the number line, we could plot negative 1 and 5 as is shown here. And I'm going to test upon x being equal to 0. And 0 squared minus 4 times 0 minus 5, or greater than 5. Since x cannot be equal to 0, that means our solutions are in both ends of our number line. And interval notation will be, as you can see over here, and set notation will be in this way as well. Alright, notice that we have to use the word or, especially if we have two sets of the solution. Alright, let's look at number 11. So same deal, we want to just write down the answer on a number line. X squared minus x minus 6 is greater than or equal to 0. Then first we got to factor just like before. And then greater than or equal to 0. Now then our boundaries will be x being 3 and then negative 2. And on a number line we can write them up in this manner as well. Then of course the first value which we like to check upon is x being equal to 0. And then we get to realize that left side becomes negative 6. That's not greater than 0, so our answer has to go away from 2 and 3, negative 2 and 3. Then as you can see, the choice 1 becomes our answer. Alright, let's move on to the next question. Alright, what is the product of the roots? Product of the root is c over a, and then in this case c is equal to -9, a is equal to 1, so we get -9 to be our product of the root. Number 13, how about the sum of the root, which is -b over a, then -3. Notice that we have double negative over here. So first negative is coming from the formula, second negative is coming from the equation. Alright, then we end up getting positive 3 over 2. Choice 1 becomes the answer. Alrighty. Number 14. What are the sum and product of the root? As you can see, sum is -b over a, product is equal to c over a. Then negative b is equal to a -4 one more time, and over a, which is equal to 2. Then we get 4 over 2. Then there it goes, sum is equal to 2. 2 becomes our answer. Alright. Number 15. Sum has to be 3 and then product is equal to -4. Then since if you know sum and product, we can rewrite it as x squared minus sum x plus product is equal to 0. And then we have seen this one many times. So x squared minus 3x, because sum was equal to 3, and then product is -4, so we just leave them alone as it is, and which basically gives us 2 as our answer. Number 16, write a quadratic equation whose sum is equal to -5 and then product is equal to 6. So then we can do that over here. Notice that you see 2 negatives because first negative is coming from the formula, second negative sign was coming from the sum of the roots. Now then, this is basically what we end up getting. Number 16. Alright, number 17 here. If 12 is one root, what is the value of k? Now, we just have to plug in 12. Then 12 squared minus 12, k times 12, and minus 36. Alright, then we end up getting 144 minus 12k minus 36 equal to 0. And that portion becomes 108. Alright, so we end up getting 108 is equal to 12k, and then divide whole thing by 12k, or 12 rather. Then k now is equal to 9. Alright, let's move on to the next question. So we have 2 roots, then to find the quadratic equation, we like to look at sum and product of the root, and that can give us a hint on how equation should be. So here we get sum of the roots becomes 4 right away because plus or minus radical 3 will cancel each other out. On the other hand, product we actually have to multiply them out. So 2 minus radical 3, and then 2 plus radical 3. Once you multiply them out, and then you will see that x is equal to, the product is equal to 1. So then our equation is x squared minus 4x plus 1 has to be equal to 0, which is the same thing as choice 3. Alright, let's look at number 19. Similar to number 18, except that we have plus and minus I. So then, but the deal is the same. The c comes from the product of the root. So what is the product of the root? Then we get 2 plus I, and then 2 minus I. And then once you multiply them out, we get this one, that is equal to 4 minus negative 4 minus I becomes what? 5. C is equal to 5. In the fact that we know that 4 minus 3i becomes one root, and 4 plus 3i is the other root as well. Now, so the sum essentially becomes 4 yes, so here we get sum is equal to 8, so our equation should be x squared minus 8. Number 21, and they want us to do the completing the square. So what do we do first? Make the coefficient of x squared to be equal to 1. So let us divide each side by 2, each term by 2. Then this is what we end up getting. Our next step is subtracting 2, leaving our space so that we can add something. Which number are we going to add? We have to get the middle number, divide that by 2, which becomes negative 3, and then square that, which becomes 9, which we are adding to both sides. Then we get to realize that x minus 3 squared becomes the factored form of the left side, and then on the right side we get 7. So x minus 3 must be plus or minus 7, or square root of 7. And by adding 3, we get to realize that x must be 3 plus or minus 7. That's how we can figure out the value of x through the completing the square. Now, in this case, we can rearrange them by subtracting 6x from both sides. And then subtracting 2. And we will be adding 9 to both sides. Why are we adding 9? Because that's the number. When you divide negative 6 by 2, we get negative 3, and square that, it becomes positive 9. Then x minus 3 squared on the left side, and then on the right side we get 7, which was choice 2. Let's look at number 23. We have to use the quadratic formula to find the value of x. And a is equal to 2, b is equal to 7, and c is equal to negative 3. By plugging into quadratic formula, we get negative b, so we have negative 7, plus or minus square root of b squared, so we have 7 squared, minus 4 times a times c, which is negative 3, all over 2 divided by a, which is equal to another 2. So negative 7 plus or minus, well, once you calculate the values within the radical, we get 73 divided by 4. So our answer is choice 3. Number 24 is the same as well. Negative b, that means 4 plus or minus negative 4 entire thing squared, and then minus 4, and a is equal to 1, and c is equal to 9. And then divide the entire thing by 2a, which is equal to 1. Now once you simplify this one, we get 4 plus or minus negative 20, divide entire thing by 2. So once you simplify square root of 20, you can see that 4 plus or minus, and then that's equal to negative 4, and then square root of 5. So square root of negative 4 becomes 2i, and then square root of 5. And you can see that 2 is the common factor in all three. So our new answer is 2 plus or minus I square root of 5, which is choice 1. Last question. Same deal. Negative b, that means negative 3, so we get positive 3, plus or minus square root of negative 3 squared minus 4 times a is equal to 1, c is equal to 7 entire thing divided by 2. Then we get 3 plus or minus square root of negative 19 all over 2. And then negative 9 square root of negative 19 is I square root of 19 anyway. So we get choice 2 becomes the final answer. Alright, with that one, we'll stop and I'll see you later. Bye bye.